Shusser of Marwick, the Marad Asra, Rabbi friend, whose friendship I treasure. My mother taught me never to contradict my host. However, tonight is an exception. To call me a Baki in Tanakh is an absurdity. As I mentioned earlier, everyone knows so little about Tanakh that when you know this much, you just know more than everybody. Unfortunately, I don't know Tanakh. I do learn it occasionally, a far cry from my Rabbi Rav Palm. It was said in yeshiva that he made a siyum on Tanakh every year on his mother's yahrzeit, not every 31 years. Now, whether it's true he made it every year or not, I never asked him, but they don't say that about me. Having said that, it's a tremendous kavod to be here tonight. A very unique occasion, a siyum on Nevi'im and Ksuvim. It's very unique, not only because very few people do it, but because it's a mechayiv. If you find out that someone learns Shev Shmaitza, you say, wow, it's hard to learn Shev Shmaitza. Someone made a siyum on Shas, you say, wow, it's hard to make a siyum on Shas. But to learn Navi, to learn Psukim of Nach, is something you would expect everybody could do. And it's really a mechayiv to all of us here tonight. I'd like to speak a little bit about Kvaydai Shel Nach, the honor of Nach, and hopefully give you a little bit of a feeling of inspiration for Limud of Nach. I'd like to begin from left field, from a totally different topic. You all know it's a custom to get an aliyah, the Shabbos, before a yahrzeit. And the custom typically is to get maftir, as an aliyah, the Shabbos before the yahrzeit, certainly if a yahrzeit is Shabbos, to get an aliyah. What does a yahrzeit have to do with maftir? Where does maftir come to be connected to a yahrzeit? I think if you asked 100 people, you would probably get 100 answers that have nothing to do with the makar, the source of the minig to connect the aliyah of maftir to a yahrzeit. Because the source is a Ramah. The Ramah in Hilchas Avelos, Siman Shin Ayin Vav, Siv Dalid, says that it's not a minig only the Shabbos before the yahrzeit. He says, Ovel al Ove v'imai, Toich Yud Beis Chaydesh, Nagu lahaftir b'navi. The entire 12 months that someone's an Ovel, Nagu lahaftir b'navi. In Yisroel, in many places, in Bnei Brak, certainly the custom is every Shabbos maftir goes to an Ovel. That's the set custom. As I state in Ramah, the custom is that somebody who's Teichid Beis Chaydesh gets maftir, unless it's an Eifruf or some other minig that overrides. When I was during the Yud Beis Chaydesh, I tried wherever I could to get maftir. Now I'm a Levi, and I have the good fortune of getting many aliyahs because there aren't that many Leviim. But when they would sell the aliyahs in shul, I would always try to get maftir. Except that very often a mispal bought me Levi, and then I was stuck with maftir and not getting it. But as I state in Ramah, that's the minig brought in the Ramah. Why maftir? Why maftir? Some people say maftir is a real aliyah. It's not a real aliyah. You've heard people talk this way. Is it a real aliyah? It's not a real aliyah. It's a shaila in the Gemara. In Megillah, the Gemara has an Ibaya. If maftir oila min aminyan, or maftir eine oila min aminyan, if maftir counts as one of the 7 aliyahs. So why then does an oval get maftir? So the answer is that the oval doesn't get maftir. The minig is nagu lahaftir bin navi. The Ramah says the minig is not that he should get that aliyah on the Torah. The minig is that he should learn the Haftarah. In order to learn the Haftarah, you have to get the aliyah of maftir. So the Ramah doesn't say Nagu lalois b'maftir, but Nagu lahaftir b'navi. That's the language of the Ramah. Unless you think this is only an Ashkenazic minig, the Sfaradim have such a minig too, whose source is in the Rivash, in Tshuva Kuf Tezvav, and listen to his language. He said, Ovel, Oimer Kaddish, O Yaftir Benavi, Kol Yud Beis Chaydish. He doesn't think it's an Aliyah. Say anything about an Aliyah. He says, you say Kaddish, Umaftir Benavi, Kol Yud Beis Chaydish. The minig is to get the Haftarah, the laning of the Haftarah. Isn't that incredible? Everyone assumes it's the Aliyah. It's not the Aliyah at all. As a matter of fact, the Bir Halacha in the beginning of Siman Kuf Lamed Vav has Seder Chiyuvei Aliyah. Many people think Seder Chiyuvim, Yortzeit must be first. It's not first at all. Matter of fact, it's last. In the Seder Chiyuvei Aliyah, the Yortzeit is last, even on the Yom HaYortzeit. The exception being someone who had a child the previous week, who's nidcha because he's going to get an aliyah the week that his wife feels well enough to go out, so there's a reason. But the nekuda that I'm telling you is not well known, but it's a beferish Ramah, that the minig of a yartzeit is, as I said, nagu lahaftir benavi. Now, that needs explanation. Why? I started by asking, what does Avelus have to do with Maftir? So I'm answering, Avelus has to do with Haftarah. That doesn't answer the question. So that gives me an opening to talk about Navi. But in the Yisayid Adavar, just like the learning of Nach has been ignored in Klal Yisrael, many things that are related to Nach are ignored. Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky used to say in the yeshiva that Klal Yisrael lost digduk to the Maskilim, lost a love of Eretz Yisrael to the secular Zionists, and lost Nach to the Catholics. So he said today, the Maskilim don't learn digduk, and the secular Zionists don't love Eretz Yisrael, and the Catholics don't learn Navi. Everything is mutter today. And the question is, what is it about Nach that's so special, that's related to somebody holding it a yartzeit or in Yud Beis Chaydish? So I'd like to share with you a machshava I saw in the Kavitz Or Yisrael, which is really a nitziv. It's gebayt on a nitziv. Well, if I want to speak about Nach, I have to start with the following Gemara. The Darim Chav Beis Amid Beis. Very difficult Gemara, especially if you like Nach. Im loy chatu b'nei Yisrael, lo yinitin lahem ela chamisha chumshei Torah v'sefer Yeshua bilvad. Klal Yisrael not sinned the Egel with the Meraglim, we would have had chamisha chumshei Torah and just Yeshua. If Nach is just Yeshua, even I can make a siyum every year. Not just Yeshua. But what's pshat in this Gemara? The Gemara seems to be a big zilzul in the cover of the Sifrei Nach. It's saying, had Klal Yisrael not sinned, they would have only had Chamisha Chumshei Torah and Sefer Yeshua. Sefer Yeshua has some mitzvahs that were told to Yeshua, Priya and Ari Mikla, and that's it. What's pshat in the Gemara? It seems to be belittling the rest of Nach. So the Nitziv explains this in his Akdama to the Hamik, to his Pirush on the Shiltis. His Akdama is a long Akdama. There in Siman Hey, he addresses the question. I mean, the question is, imagine, there would have been only Yeshua. We would have been missing the majesty of the building of the Beis HaMikdash by Shloimeh, or the beauty of Shiras Devaira, or the extraordinary visions of Zechariah, or the struggles of Eiv. That all would have not existed. Why Chatu Yisrael? Why shouldn't they exist? the Netziv's Yisoid is that it all would have been part of Torah Shebaal Peh. Of course it would have existed. It would have been part of Torah Shebaal Peh, afilu sichas chulin shel Talmid Chacham tzrichen limud. Of course, the building, Shlomo is building at a Beis HaMikdash, it would have been part of our Torah Shebaal Peh. The struggles of Yisroel would have been part of our Torah Shebaal Peh. Since Chatu Klal Yisroel, we're just not going to get it. If it gets handed down as Torah Shebaal Peh, we're just never going to get it. We're never going to absorb it. We're never going to be kind it. Zokt in Netziv, it had to be written in Nach so that the lessons should be there in the Sefer for people to be kind of for all the generations of our Golus. Had it been passed down in Torah Shebaal Peh, we would have lost it. We would have lost. It's hard enough. We learn the Dalech Chalkei Shulchan Aruch. We try to be masters of the Mishnayos, and these Mussar lessons would have been lost. Netziv says, "Haftarah tachlisa la'orer tshuva." The lady of the Haftarah every week, its tachlis is la'orer tshuva, to awaken tshuva in people. Imagine how much tshuva you think the Haftarah was ma'orer this Shabbos. We're so not fluent in it that it's ma'orer very little by anybody. Haftarah tachlisa la'orer tshuva. The whole idea is to be a lesson. That's why it was written. We get a very, very different picture of our obligations to learn Nach, to learn from Nach, to know what we're saying when we learn Navi. It's an incredible Yisoid. It's a beautiful Yisoid. It explains many of the difficult ideas that have to do with the Haftarah. If the idea of the Haftarah is la'orer tshuva, that explains, for example, the fact that as the Kesef Mishnah writes, Perek Yud Beis of Hilchos Tefillah, Rishus lahaftir be'eza haftarah sheyirtza. A person can choose any haftarah he wants, rak sheyehei me'inyana da parsha, provided that it be connected to the parsha. You can choose any haftarah. Well, unfortunately, today people are not bekiyim in Nach. It's very hard to choose a haftarah related to the parsha. So we have been hagim as to which haftarahs we read. But why should it be that way? Why should it be Rishus l'chal adam to choose his own haftarah? Why would it be that way? We don't do that by Kriyas HaTorah. We don't do it by reading the Megillas. But the answer is this nakuda. The haftarah tachlisa la'orer tshuva. The tachlis is to be ma'orer a person. A person who does sit down and learn Nach, you don't know all of Nach, but you become connected to and familiar with certain ideas that touch you, that matter to you. Haftarah tachlisa la'orer tshuva. Zokt in Netziv, that's why Ilmolei Chatu Yisroel, this will all be part of Torah Shebaal Peh. But the Yerida of Klal Yisrael, with the Chatoim, whether it's the Egel or the Meraglim, with that Yerida, it's written, it's there for you to find. That's the purpose of the Haftarah. Now, getting back to the yard site issue. The main nakuda of a yard site is to create schusim for a neshama. And the main schusim for a neshama are what the children do. What children do. Derech Sicha, Rav Chaim Kanievsky, so sein gesund, is quoted as saying that if people are learning anyway, and you say learn Le'ili Nishmas, it's meaningless. What do you mean, learning anyways? Learn Le'ili Nishmas, what does that mean? It has to be a Tosefes limud. It has to be something more, something added. A schus for a neshama, it's not, people say you can learn for as many people as you want, it's a schus for everybody. It's not true. Learning has a certain amount of schus. And if you divide it, so you divide it in two. If you divide it in three, you divide it in three. The purpose of a yard site is that it be meaningful. If haftarah tachlisa la'orer tshuva, then we understand the Ramah. The Ramah says, Ovel alaviv alimai techyud beis chaydesh nagu lahaftir benavi. Not nagu la'lois lamaftir. Nagu lahaftir benavi. If tachlisa is lawyer tshuva, we understand. An oval, somebody by a yard site, that's what he would do. One of the strange aspects of the Haftarah is that by Machar Chodesh we have a separate Haftarah. Now, when it's Yom Tif, we understand the last Aliyah is about Yom Tif. The Haftarah matches the Aliyah. But Machar Chodesh? Why does Machar Chodesh have any special connection to anything? It has nothing to do with the parasha. But again, if Tachlisa La'ir Tshuva, Erev Rosh Chodesh is Yom Kippur Cotton. It's a day of special connection. It's a day of a special shaykhis to tshuva. And therefore, if Tachlisa La'ir Tshuva, then we can understand it. And so, we come away from this drasha here today with an understanding that we got it all wrong. We got it all wrong. When we come to the Haftarah and have nary a clue about what it's about, when we come to a yard site and stress the Aliyah rather than the Haftarah, we're missing the point. We're missing the point. Now, of course, if I come to Baltimore at a time of a Siyam Anach, my agenda is that Yirbu Kamaisam be Yisroel. That there should be more Loim Dei Nach, or people who know Nach, who learn Nach, who are familiar with Nach. I am not sure why it falls by the wayside, but I want to tell you what it takes to be able to come to Baltimore and have Rabbi Fran call you a Baki in Tanakh. All you have to know is the little bit I know. My background in Tanakh started when I was in Yeshiva Torah Vodaas, a Talmud of Rav Pam. Does that mean I learned Tanakh second Seder? Not at all. Before I went to sleep at night, in the dorm, next to my bed, I had a Tanakh. And I'm not ashamed to say, it was the Judaica Press Tanakh, which has Hebrew facing English. So depending on how tired I was, or how difficult the psukim were, I looked at the Hebrew, I looked at the English, and I tried to learn a parak a night. Zehu. This is pretty much at least my early background in Tanakh. You could do it. Anybody could do it. If a person undertakes to learn a parak a night, you'll finish Nevi'im Rishayim. Nevi'im Rishayim, Yeshua Shaftim, Shmuel Malachim is even interesting. It's easy to read. Now there are some prakim that are lists of cities in Yeshua, which is a bonus. But read through the list of cities, you want to make a siyum. You can finish in 6 months, you'll finish the entire Nevi'im Rishayim. Yeshua Shaftim, Shmuel Malachim. You'll know who certain people are that a lot of Fruma Yidden have no clue about. And you can review it. And they say, Yiddish is saying, mit der Essen kind der Appetit. When you eat, you get an appetite. With doing it, you'll have an appetite to do more. There's a Nachabura in our shul. I'll tell you how it started. We have a Mishmar Thursday nights. It ends at midnight. Marav is 11:45. And I told some of my chaverim, why don't you stay a little longer? A little longer? It's midnight. Here anyway. Just learn Sefer Ezra. Sefer Ezra? None of them ever learned Ezra. Okay, so Ezra is a commitment, a parak a week. It's a commitment for 2.5 months. So they learned Ezra. 3 weeks into Ezra, they're saying, why weren't we ever taught these things? You just learned the story of the Klal Yisrael coming back in the Bayesheni. They asked me, this is Klal Yisrael coming back by the Bayesheni. Why didn't we ever learn this? So they finished Ezra and Nehemiah and Daniel. And I'm being very cautious with them. I don't want to scare them with jumping straight to Uriah Yeshaya. So I had them do Chagei Schaya Malachi next, and then the rest of Trei Asar. And every time we finish a sefer, we make a siyum, someone brings in a cake. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had a cake that said Siyum Sefer Chabakuk. And I turned to the fellow making the siyum and I say, how many cakes do you think Chabakuk ever got? Who was Chabakuk? Who was he? Very few people have any shaykhis or any connection. And it's not that difficult, not that hard. You just have to undertake it. Chagai is a beautiful Navi. It is 3 parakim long. 3 parakim long. I don't know if you're going to take my suggestion and learn a parak a night for the next 6 months. But the Shloishis Yimei Hagbala, 3 days. Learn Chagai. Someday, if the Tchias HaMeisim, you'll be in the Bayis HaShlishi, there'll be a tumult. Who's coming? Chagai. You run over to him. Say, Shalom Aleichem, Chagai, Navi. The Chagai will say to you, did you ever read my book? And many people will say, well, I was very busy. I said, busy? It's 3 chapters. It doesn't take very long. And you'll say, yes, I did. I learned it. Don't faher me on it now, but I learned it. The inspiration from this Chabura was stuck together for such an extended period of time and was able to finish all of Nach is something that should inspire you. The purpose of a siyum is to inspire you. The purpose of my trip here tonight is to inspire you. And it's meaningful. It's meaningful. How could a Yid come? It's one thing, the difficult Musa Parakim, but Ezra, Nehemiah, Daniel. Now, I have to warn you, there are parts that aren't Aramaic, that are difficult. It's not the Gemara's Aramaic. Rashi teaches every word in the Aramaic Parakim. And yes, you can have the Judaica with the English on one side and the Hebrew on the other side. But it's something that everybody could accomplish. Something that everybody could do. It's an opportunity. The lessons of the Navi are such that when you learn Navi, you have to wait for the opportunity, the moment it hits you. There will be different parakim that will touch you differently. I have on my desk at home a pasuk from Sefer Zechariah. It's not a famous pasuk. But when I read the pasuk, it had meaning to me. I know I'd forget it. I put it on a little post-it. It's on my desk. It has meaning. It has meaning. The purpose is to be ma'ir. And that really is the essence of the celebration of the Siyum here tonight. The celebration of a Siyum of Nach in a generation that's not quick to learn Nach, and a message that it's something we can all do. When I started off in the Rabbanus some 30 years ago, about the same time that Rabbi Franz started his Nach Chabura, I had an incident that made a roshim, an impression on me as a Rav. It was a Thursday evening, and I was at home. And one of the ladies in the shul called. She was apparently cooking for Shabbos. And she called with a basa b'chol of shayla. I don't remember the details. But she was cooking for Shabbos, and something happened with milchis and fleishiks. And she called, look, I learned your idea. I have smicha. At least the common shaylas I know. So when she called, I knew exactly what the halacha was, and I told her. I told her in such a case, it says in halacha, that hamekel yeshloi al milismaich, v'hamachmir tovei olav bracha. If you want to be mekel, you can be mekel. If you machmir tovei olav bracha. Now apparently she had never learned Yeridea. Because she hesitated, and she said, what? In those days, I was a young Rav and really didn't get it. Nowadays, I'm an older Rav who really doesn't get it. And I repeated to her again, and she said to me in exasperation, Rabbi, just tell me what to do. And I froze. What am I supposed to tell her? I really did not know what to say to her. Should I tell her to throw it out? How can I tell her to throw it out? It says, Yisroel Milisma. Should I tell her to serve it? But it's Tov Lahachmir. I was really stuck with my whole Yeridei, my whole Smicha, and I really have one, I have a Ksaf and Rapam. I still didn't know what to do, and I hemmed and hawed. Finally, she got so upset with me, she said in a very threatening tone, when my husband comes home, he'll call you. So I was a little stuck, I'll tell you the truth. I was even afraid that another person will call it the same shaila. I still don't know what to answer. So what I did is that Shabbos, when I got up to speak, and I got up to speak every Shabbos before Kriyas HaTorah. So instead of giving a speech, I told the people what happened. I didn't say her name, I said what happened. And I said to the Olam, there are a lot of places it says in Halacha, Yirei Shemayim Yachmir Al Atzmai, or Tov Lahachmir, Nochin Lach. When your wife calls with a shaila, tell me what to tell her. You want me to tell her to serve it? You want me to tell her to throw it out? Just tell me what to say. When you're standing in front of a group of 100 or 200 people, and you throw out a question, it gets very quiet. Every shul has to have one comedian, which we are Baruch Hashem blessed with. So he raised his hand, he stood up, and he said, I kid you not, he said, if it's a potato kugel, you serve it. If it's a broccoli kugel, you throw it out. So with those words, it sort of opened the box, and everybody started to present an opinion. Some people said, well, I'm after bracha. Some said, make this, if it's mutter, it's mutter. It became something of an argument actually between two groups in the shul about what to do. At one point, I made a suggestion. It says very often, Yirei Shemayim Yachmir Al Atzmai. In our membership forms, we'll have a checkoff box. Non-Yirei Shemayim, or yes Yirei Shemayim. The lady called, hold on 1 minute, I'll pull out my list. Oh, you're non-Yirei Shemayim, you can serve it. But if you have guests, let me know whom. Gotta check them out. So somehow Noah wanted to sign non-Yirei Shemayim. When the argument died down, I told the Olam what I think. That's what I want to share with you tonight. Yiddishkeit is not a rule book. It's not a rule book. Even the Shulchan Aruch is not, strictly speaking, just a rule book. Now, of course, a Yid has rules. We have halachas, we have things that are mutter, things that are aser, things that are mitzvahs and things that are averis. There's no question the first obligation of a Yid is to know what he's allowed to do, what he's not allowed to do. That's Aleph Beis. But there's something else. There's Avas HaTorah. There's Avas Hashem. There's Avas HaMitzvahs. Love, what's love? What is love? How do you show love? If you do for someone what you must do for that person, that does not show love at all. If the rule is you got to do it, it doesn't show ava. You're doing it because it's the rule. Not allowed to park at a fire hydrant. Why aren't you parking at the fire hydrant? Not because I love the city. It's because I'm going to get a ticket. There's a rule. A kala under the chuppah gets a wedding band. As you know, very often the little trinket the chassan buys her is more meaningful than even a wedding band. Because you have to get a wedding band under the chuppah. Everybody gets a wedding band under the chuppah. Now, of course, it's a symbol of Ava, but giving the wedding band doesn't show love. Doing something you don't have to do, that shows love. And my story on this For those who don't understand, there was once a young man in the yeshiva who just married. And once over breakfast, he had his first argument with his wife. She said, so-and-so, such and such. And he said, what? It's not true. And she said, it is true. I could prove it. And he said, no, it's not true. The proof is not a proof. And they had an argument. And he finished breakfast, so he headed to yeshiva. So during first Seder, it was bothering him. The first argument bothers you during first Seder. And he excused himself, and he got up, and he went into the mashgiach, and he said to the mashgiach, you know, my wife and I had a disagreement this morning, first argument. She said such and such, and I said it's not true, and she said I could prove it with this and that, and I said this is not a proof, and that's not a proof. Who's right? So the mashgiach smiled, and he said to him, listen, over this you get into an argument. I want you to go home lunchtime, stop at the florist, buy some flowers, and give it to your wife. He's a good boy, that's what he did. Lunchtime he went home, stopped at the florist, bought some flowers, went to his wife and said, here, the mashgiach said I should give these to you. You all understand that Ava is not what the mashgiach says you have to do. Ava is what you choose to do. The Shulchan Aruch has a long menu of things you choose to do. There are many things in halacha that are yeshayimrim in the Ramah, that are hider mitzvah, that has reason, or mahadrin, or yirei shemayim, yachmir al atzmai. There's a long list. If someone tells you you have to do it, that's not the point. The point is that an erlich yidu, as an avas ha-mitzvahs, an avas ha-tayr, an avas Hashem, chooses to do certain things that he's not obligated to do, that he doesn't have peer pressure to do, that he doesn't have anything compelling him to do, that he does as an exhibition of Ava to the Borei Olam. That's Ava. And when it says, Machmir tovei alav bracha v'amekel yesh lo almi l'smoich, the Rav tells you the way it is. That's what it says. People have to have a havana, an understanding of that aspect of Avodas Hashem. There is no aspect of serving the Borei Olam where there's a greater perception of choice than Limud HaTorah. Whether it's emes or not emes, that you're obligated to learn this many hours and not more, I don't know. But certainly there's a perception of choice when it comes to learning. People learn 1 hour, people learn 2 hours, people learn 3 hours, people learn morning and night. You have neighbors, they look like they're the same. They're not the same. One gets up early in the morning and has a Seder, one lunchtime pulls out a Mishnayos, and one supper time is learning, and the other one's not. There's a big difference between them. Limud HaTorah, more than anywhere else, is there an opportunity not only to broaden your horizons, to express a love and Ava, the Torah, for the Rebbeinu Shalom. Limud HaTanakh is probably an area in which those of you who are here today have not had the opportunity to have someone try to inspire you to start. I don't know if the Mashgiach did it in yeshiva, or the Rav did it in your shuls, but tonight, 7 people are coming together. And they're making a siyum on Tanakh, which they accomplished with 1 hour a week, consistently, for a generation of years. And they're saying to you, you can do it. It's doable. It's one of the many areas in which a person would be hard-pressed to say why he never did it. Why don't you learn Ezra? Why don't you know the story of the return of Klal Yisroel to Eretz Yisrael and the Bayis Sheni? Is there something there that can inspire you? Is there something there that could teach you? And so, tonight is a unique opportunity. It's funny that the learning of Nach does not necessarily inspire a lot of respect in all areas. I had years ago a Polish Yid, a Holocaust survivor. The Polish Hasidim did not learn Nach. And although he davened by us, he did not respect my learning of Nach. He said, Nach is for the Moderne. Nach is for modern people. Once I was coming to be Menachem Ovel. I happened to come to the house, of the home, the same time as him. So I opened the door. He wasn't all of a shalom, he was much older than me. I said, you go first. He says to me, in America, the rabbi geht erst. In America, the rabbi goes first. So I said to him, in Poland, the rabbi didn't go first? He says to me, yes, but in Poland, the rabbi knew how to learn. I said, if so, I'll go first. The lamaisa of it is that the limud of Nach is something that we should do. I'm talking to myself as well. I barely learn Nach. It's something we should do, the limud of the Haftarahs. If you have a yard site and there's a Haftarah on that yard site, it's likely that it's the same Haftarah most years of that particular yard site. Why not know the Haftarah of the yard site? Why not have a little piece of Nach about which you can be Mekayim? The words of the Netziv, Haftarah Tachlisa La'ir Tshuva. I think if you'll do it, you'll find it meaningful. You'll find that it does breed an avas HaTorah, a love to Torah, a love to limud HaTorah, a love to being in the Beis Medrash, a love through and through, and hopefully it'll challenge you. Learning Nevi'im Rishayim, Ezra, Nehemiah, Daniel is the easy part. The other parts of Nachem Yitz Hashem, I hope you'll be able to move on to. And Bezos Hashem, we should all be Zaycha to make Siyumim Anach. We should be Zaycha to meet the great Nevi'im who wrote them and be able to say to them, yes, I read your book. Thank you, everyone.
Myron in 5 minutes? For Myron now. Myron, 1 minute. Now it's 5 minutes. Bye-bye. Sure.